Hello and welcome to the Beginner's Guide for Empire War Expanded Fall of the Republic. This video is intended to give anyone new to the Empire War Expanded mods an idea of how the new mechanics work. If you're looking for help on installing the mod, there will be a separate video for that linked in the description. I'll also put timestamps in the description for different sections of the guide. There will also be videos breaking down the rosters for each faction, so information that informs specific tactics can be found there. The mod is intended to be updated on a monthly schedule, adding new content, fixing bugs, and other enhancements, so the information in this video is primarily based on the 0.5 release, and some further changes may have been made if you're on a future version. Fall of the Republic is a mod that converts the strategy game Star Wars Empire at War to the Clone Wars. There are several changes made to various game functions in both the tactical level and the galactic level to add new depth to the game. We'll start by talking about the new galactic features. First, we have the tech system used by the mod. Rather than sticking with the base game's traditional tech levels, starting with corvettes and rising up to capital ships at the highest tech levels, Empire at War Expanded works off of an era system. Each era gives the factions different sets of units, research options, and in some cases heroes. Era 1 covers pre-Clone Wars content and Era 5 post-Clone Wars content, though these are currently unused by the mod and intended for future releases. Eras 2, 3, and 4 cover the years of the Clone Wars and contain different time period appropriate events. Eras will automatically progress after 30 weeks as well. By changing your starting era on the main progressive maps, the starting forces also change to match the galactic situation, so each map essentially has multiple scenarios within it. They also reflect certain elements of the government mechanics, which we'll get to in a moment. Story elements play a large role in the mod, and for a list of the events and missions available within the different periods, there's a story guide within the game which can be found on the left side of the screen. But if you want to just experience the game as it happens, don't check it, there will be spoilers. In addition to the main progressive maps, there's also smaller maps meant to represent specific campaigns of the war, which currently just includes the Foros campaign, but that will be expanded more as we go. There's also a scenario called From the Ground Up, which starts you off with a single planet against randomized hostile forces and the opposite faction under AI control. The AI does start with more planets because they need to auto-resolve everything, so otherwise they just lose, and your starting difficulty will also determine the number of starting forces on the map. So if you start on easy, you'll be up against less than if you start on hard. If you would like to play on hard but play against fewer forces, you can start on easy and then change the difficulty to hard in the game options menu. Next on the galactic level is the introduction of planet influence. Rather than simply owning and holding a planet, each planet within your faction will have a certain level of loyalty towards you. For all planets, this influences the amount of credits they're making, but it also can provide other benefits and drawbacks based on the specific planet, like unique units and structures in future updates, much like we do in Thrawn's Revenge. The primary source of increased influence will come from the structures you build on the planet, but controlling the planet for longer periods of time will also increase influence. Other events, like battles taking place on the planet, can increase and decrease influence as well. The current influence level of a planet can be seen in the top left of the screen by selecting a planet, along with a bar beside each planet showing their current influence level at all times. Influence is recalculated and applied at the end of each galactic week, so changes won't immediately be seen. A full list of influence factors and rewards can be seen in-game using the Influence Guide button on the left. In the future, this will also include mechanics like planets that rebel if they become too unhappy. One of the primary changes on the galactic level in Empire War Expanded, though, is the introduction of government mechanics for each faction which give them different goals and story elements to work towards. In Fall of the Republic, both factions have subfactions to help organize the game a bit more and control game pace, but also to reflect the build-up that occurred in the war. For the Republic, there are two main parts to the government mechanics. The first and primary part revolves around Senate approval. This value can be found by accessing the red Government Guide button on the left side of the screen. The primary basis of Senate approval is the influence level of your planets, but completing missions from the Senate will also slowly increase your influence beyond just the average of all your planets' influence level. Once you have proven yourself to the Senate and hit 80% influence, you will be presented with the chance to support Chancellor Palpatine in his bid to end the Jedi and form the Empire, or oppose him and help the delegation of 2000, a group of Republic loyal senators opposing Palpatine. The Palpatine route leads to Order 66 and grants access to powerful spaceships like the Imperator and Secutor, but at the cost of your Jedi. The alternative route allows you to keep your Jedi, but cuts off access to those powerful ships. There are and will be other rewards for each route logged into the story guide as we develop the mod more over various patches. The second part of the Republic's government in the early game, when you start in Era 2 on progressive maps, are the local sector forces. This faction is indicated with a deeper red and also has the Republic emblem on their planets on the galactic map. They will attempt to hold their territory against the CIS, relieving some of the pressure from the main Republic and Grand Army, but after the first era change, their remaining territory and forces will fully join the Republic. Starting in later eras, so 3 or 4, will mean the Republic forces begin fully unified, with no sector forces. If you are playing as the CIS, that will also mean that the Republic forces begin fully unified from the start. The Confederacy's government mechanics primarily rely on their relationship with their subfactions. The CIS began as more independent groups, and that's reflected by the mod maps. On top of the main separatist forces, the Techno-Union, Trade Federation, Commerce Guild, and Banking Clan are present. The later era you start in, the fewer planets each group will have, and more of their territory will be directed directly towards the main CIS faction. Each of these groups has an opinion on the CIS which can be seen on the government guide. All these factions will act as if they are allied, so you can pass through each other's territory, and you will not attack each other. You still have the ability to invade them if you're playing as the CIS, so you can't actually land your forces on their planets, but by reaching 100% influence, through either the completion of missions that you are offered by the faction, or by going to your story options menu on the build bar, you are able to give them money directly to increase your influence. The faction's territory will then join the CIS. This sometimes comes with additional heroes and unit options. The Banking Clan and Trade Federation provide 2 new heroes on incorporation, and the Commerce Guild gives 2 powerful new ships, the Recusant and the Providence Dreadnought variants. Other options for them and the Techno-Union will be implemented at various points in future updates. Unfortunately, because Empire at War doesn't have a dedicated diplomacy system, there are chances that if you are attacking the same planet, for example, that you will end up in a tactical battle with them. However, if you retreat, then they should stop attacking you, and it wouldn't be a sustained campaign. We're going to do as much as we can over different updates to find as many ways around fixes for different elements of that, but we are essentially trying to do what we can with an old engine. Heroes also work slightly differently in Empire War Expanded than the base game. Once a hero has died, they are dead for good. This works as both a story and balancing mechanic. Heroes are quite powerful, but be careful when using them. We tried to add relatively even amounts of heroes as a core for each faction in the first release, but there's a lot of options for the future as well. One of the most common questions we get asked is about future hero options, so rest assured there will be more coming. Heroes also have tiers and traits describing their combat bonuses. The specific effects of all of these can be seen by accessing the in-game guide with the chevrons on the left side of the screen. Because of all the varied skill levels of players and the different kind of experience they may have or want, on top of the traditional 3 difficulty levels, Empire War Expanded has a setting called Cruel AI. This is a button you can press when already on the galactic map, which adds bonus multipliers to the AI's income and build speed. These modifiers apply to each level differently, so there are effectively 6 difficulty levels in the game. On the regular easy mode, the AI builds much slower than you and makes far less money. On normal, they make around the same as you, but build at around the same rate. On hard, they make a bit more than you and build slightly faster, and then on Cruel Admiral, they make several times your income and build much faster. So players looking for any level of challenge should have something that works for them. You may also notice that larger maps perform worse. Empire at War is an old game and you can only use 1 core of your CPU, so larger maps with more planets and more units will take more resources. Even modern CPUs can struggle with larger maps. There are a couple steps you can take to try to improve this, but it ultimately boils down to higher base clock speed being necessary to run the larger maps smoothly. This is why we try to provide multiple map sizes for systems of various strengths along with the variety it provides. To try to improve your performance while the game is open, go to the Task Manager. On the Details tab in the Task Manager, go to the StarWarsG.exe for the Steam version, and set the priority as high as possible, as you can see on the video here. Then when you are done with that, right-click it again and go to Select Affinity, and unselect all but 2 of the cores. Next up, we'll talk about differences on the tactical level. A lot of the changes on this level are more in the form of balancing and different individual unit mechanics, so they'll be addressed in the faction roster overviews, but there's a few more broad mechanics to explain as well. First off is a new game mode that lets you build and test fleets of any size, not restrained by PopCap, credits, or build time. This mode is accessed through the Instant Action map on the galactic level. Currently, you can only play as the Republic side, but you can still spawn ships for either faction. This can be used to test individual matchups, or just to set up large cinematic battles. One major thing people often request is Legion skins for clones. Rather than have them clog up the build bar as redundant build options, clone legions show up based on other criteria. Some, like Senate Guards, spawn as defensive garrisons from appropriate buildings, and other role-specific ways like that. However, you can also get other specific Legion skins like the 501st, 212th, and Wolfpack clones by landing clone troopers with different heroes present. These options are described by the tooltips on the clone troopers themselves. Some maps also have different ways to win the ground battle. Around half the planets when attacking have a special capture point which, if you hold it for 60 seconds, will end the battle. This and other future changes we have planned should help focus ground battles a little better, and contribute to hopefully making one of the less popular game modes a bit better. In space, one of the larger individual differences from the base game is that bombs, specifically proton torpedoes and missiles, don't penetrate straight through shields. There are a few reasons for this. One is lore, but it also prevents bombers from being the only thing that really matters in a tactical battle. They're still quite important, and fighter superiority is a key way to win battles, but carrier spam will be less viable, so specifically nuking hangar hardpoints and even anti-fighter ships with a group of bombers will no longer be as possible. They can still contribute a lot of damage, but if you rely too heavily on one type of unit like that, it usually won't work quite as well. Interdiction also works a little differently than the base game, interdiction being the way to prevent enemies from leaving a battle. Instead of coming directly from the ships themselves, since ship-based interdiction wasn't really a thing yet in this period, interdiction mines get deployed from specific fleet tender ships, which also act as repair craft in tactical battles. For the CIS, this is the DH Omni droid supply ship. For the Republic, this is a variant of the Pelta class. The mines then get deployed from these ships via an ability, and then the ability is cast on those mines to interdict within the battle. These mines can be targeted and destroyed by the enemy, and there's a limit on how many you can deploy from each ship in each battle. There are also a few instances of some new abilities that have been added to the game. For example, there is a single unit retreat ability, which lets you retreat an individual unit from a battle without having to withdraw your whole fleet. This requires engines to still be active, just like with a regular retreat, but it also requires that the fighters that belong to that ship either have been destroyed or returned to the mothership. You cannot, for example, drop a bunch of carriers down, have them deploy their fighters, and then jump out of the battle to free up your pop cap. Like I said, a lot of the tactical changes are probably better suited to the roster overview videos. If you're watching this video right at release, those videos will hopefully come over the next week or two. Hopefully this video has given you a decent idea on how to make your way through the mod though. If you have any questions or even suggestions for future builds of the mod, feel free to leave a comment on this video, in the Steam Workshop, mod database, or to join our Discord server, all linked in the description. If you enjoy the mod and want to try our post-Endor mod with similar mechanics, there's a link to Thrawn's Revenge there as well. There will be regular updates to the mod as I said, so if you'd like to see preview playthroughs for those as they're in development, or other features in development and news posts, as well as videos showing how we developed the mod or any other information like that, you can subscribe here. On behalf of the team, we hope you enjoy the mod, but in the immortal words of Count Dooku, this is just the beginning.